What if the reason you feel stuck isn't because your life is complicated, but because you're avoiding one simple truth? Not a big truth, not some life-changing secret, just a small, uncomfortable realization you've been quietly ignoring. And deep down, you already know it. It shows up in those moments when you're alone, scrolling, thinking, feeling that weird mix of guilt and restlessness, like you're meant for more, but somehow you keep doing less. And here's the scary part. What if 5 minutes of honesty could completely change your life? Not 5 years, not some perfect future version of you, 5 minutes. But you keep avoiding it. Why? Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that means you'd have to change. Now be honest for a second. Does that feel familiar? That quiet voice in your head saying, you could be doing better. But instead, you distract yourself. You delay. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. And tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next year. And suddenly, you're living a life you didn't choose. You just drifted into it. But this is where things change. Because that 5-minute realization, it's not about motivation. It's not about discipline hacks or morning routines. It's about seeing something so clearly that you can't go back to who you were. Let me show you. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and nothing changes. Same habits, same thoughts, same excuses. Now fast forward 1 year. Not your dream life, not your potential, your current path. Where does it lead? Same job or worse? Same stress, same feeling of being behind. That uncomfortable thought you avoid? It becomes your reality. And here's the part nobody tells you. You don't wake up one day and realize you wasted your life. It happens slowly, quietly. One ignored decision at a time. One I'll do it later at a time. Until later becomes never. So let me ask you something. Why do we keep doing this, even when we know better? Why do we sabotage ourselves when we clearly want more? This is where it gets real. Because the problem isn't laziness. It's not lack of talent. It's not even lack of time. It's comfort. You've trained your brain to choose comfort over growth. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce the same identity, the one that stays stuck. Think about it. You say you want success, but you avoid the work that creates it. You say you want peace, but you keep feeding the habits that destroy it. You say you want change, but you protect the version of you that keeps things the same. That's the contradiction, and it's exhausting. Because part of you knows the truth. You're not stuck. You're just not moving. And yeah, that's a hard thing to admit. Most people won't. I didn't, for a long time. I used to think something was wrong with me, like I was missing some secret, some drive, something other people had. But then I had that moment, that 5-minute realization. And it wasn't dramatic, no big breakthrough, no sudden motivation. Just a quiet thought. If nothing changes, this is my life. And that hit harder than anything else, because suddenly, it wasn't abstract anymore. It was real. And once you see that, everything shifts. But here's where most people mess up. They feel that realization, and then they ignore it. They go back to normal, back to distractions, back to comfort, back to the same loop. Because change feels heavy, uncertain, uncomfortable. So they wait for motivation, for the right time, for some version of themselves that feels ready. But here's the truth. You're not waiting to become ready. You're waiting to avoid being uncomfortable. And that's the trap. Now here's the part that changes everything. What if you didn't need motivation? What if you didn't need to feel ready? What if all you needed was to stop lying to yourself? Just for 5 minutes. No distractions, no excuses. Just you and the truth. What are you avoiding? What are you pretending not to see? What decision are you delaying that you already know you need to make? Don't answer fast. Think about it for a second. Because that answer, that's your turning point. And yeah, it's uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that's the signal. You're finally seeing clearly. And clarity is dangerous. Because once you see clearly, you either change or you accept the life you're living. There's no in-between anymore. So the question is, which one are you choosing? So now you've seen it. That one thing you've been avoiding. That quiet truth sitting in the background of your life. And here's the uncomfortable part. You can't pretend you don't know anymore. But this is where resistance kicks in. Because clarity feels powerful for a moment, and then your brain immediately tries to protect you from it. It starts whispering things like, "Relax, it's not that serious. You'll figure it out later. Now's not the right time." And just like that, the urgency fades. You go back to normal. Same patterns, same loops, same life. But wait, notice something. If you already know what's wrong, then why haven't you fixed it? That question right there is everything. Because it exposes the real problem. It's not awareness, it's avoidance. You're not confused. You're conflicted. Part of you wants to grow, another part of you wants to stay safe. And safe usually wins. Because growth demands something from you. It demands discomfort. It demands discipline. It demands letting go of the version of you that feels familiar. And honestly, that's scary. Because who are you without your excuses? Who are you without your delays? Who are you if you actually start showing up the way you know you should? That version of you feels intense, uncomfortable, almost unrealistic. So you shrink back. You tell yourself, "I'll start small. I just need more time. I'll do it when I feel better." But here's the twist. You don't feel better by waiting. You feel better by acting. Even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect, even if it's just one small step. But this is where it gets real. Most people don't fail because they can't do it. They fail because they never fully decide. They stay in this in-between state, not quitting, but not committing either, just existing. And that's the most dangerous place to be, because it feels like you're trying, but nothing actually changes. Let me ask you something. Which one are you right now, stuck or starting? Don't overthink it, because your daily actions already answered that. And yeah, that might sting a little. But that sting, that's honesty. And honesty is where everything begins. Now here's the shift, the moment that changes everything. You stop asking, "How do I feel?" And you start asking, "What needs to be done?" Simple, but powerful. Because feelings are unreliable. They change every day. But actions, they build identity.
Every time you do what you said you'd do, you become someone you can trust. And right now, that's probably what's missing. Self-trust. Not confidence, not motivation. Trust. Because deep down, you don't believe yourself anymore. You've broken too many promises to yourself. I'll start tomorrow. I'll wake up early. I'll stop wasting time. And then, you don't. So your brain adapts. It stops taking you seriously. That's why discipline feels so hard. It's not about effort. It's about credibility. And this next part changes everything. You don't rebuild your life by doing something big. You rebuild it by keeping small promises, consistently, quietly, daily. Not impressive, not exciting, but effective. And yeah, it's boring. That's the part nobody likes. We want transformation to feel dramatic. We want that new life energy. But real change? It's repetitive. It's showing up when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. Because that's when identity is built. Let me say something that might hit you. You're not tired because life is hard. You're tired because you're out of alignment. You're living in a way that contradicts what you know you should be doing. And that internal tension, that's exhausting. But the moment you act in alignment, even a little, that tension starts to disappear. You feel lighter, clearer, more in control. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped fighting yourself. Now here's the part nobody tells you. Your life doesn't change when you feel ready. It changes when you stop negotiating with yourself. No more, I'll do it later. I'll try. Maybe tomorrow. Just a decision. Clean, simple. I'm doing this. And then, you do it. No drama, no overthinking, just action. And yeah, you'll still doubt yourself. You'll still feel resistance. But you move anyway. Because now, you're not waiting to feel different. You're choosing to act different. That's the shift. And once you make that shift, everything starts to move. Slowly at first, then faster, then suddenly, your life looks completely different. But it all starts with that one moment, that 5-minute realization, and the decision that follows it. So here's the real question. Are you going to use that clarity or waste it like every other time? If this makes sense, say something. Because this is the moment most people lose. Not because they can't change, but because they choose not to. And that choice? It's happening right now.
And this is where things either fall apart or finally come together. Because right now, and now you're standing at a very quiet crossroads. No noise, no big announcement, no dramatic moment. Just a simple choice. Go back or move forward. And the crazy part? Nobody will stop you either way. If you go back to your old habits, no one's coming to pull you out. And if you decide to move forward, no one's coming to push you either. It's just you. And that realization, it's both freeing and terrifying because it means this is on you, not your past, not your circumstances, not your mood. You. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, because once you accept that, you lose your favorite escape route, blame. No more. I didn't have time. I wasn't in the right environment. I just didn't feel like it. Those might be real, but they're not the reason. They're the cover. And deep down, you know it. So the question becomes, what are you going to do with that truth? Because truth without action, it turns into regret, and regret builds quietly. It doesn't hit you all at once. It shows up in small moments. When you see someone doing what you wish you started. When you realize time passed and nothing changed. When you feel that familiar thought, I could have done more. And that thought, it sticks, longer than failure ever does. Let me tell you something most people won't admit. Failure isn't what scares you. Regret is, because failure means you tried. Regret means you didn't, and that hits deeper. Now here's the shift that changes everything. You stop trying to fix your life and start controlling your next move. That's it. Not your future, not your entire routine, just the next action. Because the future, it's just a collection of next moves. And right now, you're either building it or avoiding it. But wait till you hear this. You don't need to feel confident to take action. Confidence comes after. You don't need clarity to begin. Clarity comes from doing. And you definitely don't need everything figured out. You just need to stop standing still. That's the real problem, huh? Not confusion, not lack of ability, stillness. Because while you're waiting, life is moving, opportunities pass, time moves forward, people evolve, and you stay the same. Not because you want to, but because you didn't decide otherwise. Now let me ask you something. What's one thing you've been putting off that you know matters? Don't say it out loud. Just think about it. Because that thing, it's not random. It's usually the exact thing that moves your life forward. And the reason you're avoiding it, it's not because it's hard. It's because it requires a new version of you. More focused, more disciplined, more consistent, and becoming that person feels uncomfortable. But here's the truth nobody tells you. You don't become that person first. You act like them first. Then identity follows. You don't wake up one day disciplined. You become disciplined by doing things when you don't feel like it, over and over again. That's how identity is built. Not in big moments, but in small, repeated decisions. And yeah, it's going to feel unnatural at first. Like you're forcing it, like it's not really you. But that's because, you've been practicing a different version of yourself for years. Of course this feels new. Of course it feels uncomfortable. That's the point. Growth isn't supposed to feel natural. Comfort is. And comfort is what kept you stuck. Now here's where it gets real again. Because you're going to have days where you slip, where you go back to old habits, where you choose easy over right. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're in the process. The only real failure is deciding it's not worth continuing. And most people do that too early. They expect instant change, instant results, instant transformation. And when it doesn't happen, they quit. Not because it didn't work, but because it didn't happen fast enough. But real change, it's quiet. It builds under the surface. Until one day, it shows. And people call it sudden. But you know the truth. It wasn't sudden. It was consistent. Now here's the part that changes everything. You stop waiting for proof. And you become the proof. Not later. Now, in this moment, with your next decision. So the real question is what? What are you about to do next? Because that answer is shaping your life more than anything else. And this is where it all becomes real. Not in theory, not in motivation, but in your next decision. Because by now, you see it. You see the pattern. You see the avoidance. You see the truth you've been running from. And here's the thing. You don't need another idea. You don't need more information. You need a shift. A quiet one, internal, where you stop asking, what should I do? And start saying, I already know. Because you do. That's the part nobody likes to admit. You already know what's holding you back. You already know what you've been avoiding. You already know what needs to change. You're just not doing it. And that gap between knowing and doing, that's where your life is being decided. Right there, every single day. Now here's where it gets deeper. Because closing that gap isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming honest. Honest about your habits. Honest about your excuses. Honest about your priorities. Because your life isn't shaped by what you say matters. It's shaped by what you actually do. Daily, quietly, consistently. So if you say you want more, but your actions don't reflect that, then the truth is simple. You don't want it enough. Yet. And yeah, that might hit. But that's not an insult. It's clarity. And clarity gives you power, because once you see that, you can change it. But only if you stop lying to yourself. Now here's something most people never realize. You don't lack time, you lack direction. Because when something truly matters, you find time. You make space, you show up. But when you're unclear, you drift, you scroll, you distract yourself. You stay busy, but not productive. And that's the trap. Looking active, but going nowhere. So the shift is simple. Not easy, but simple. Decide what matters and cut everything else. Not perfectly. Not all at once, but intentionally. Because every yes to something meaningless is a no to something important. And those small no's, they add up. Over time, they become your life. Now let me ask you something. If someone followed you around for a week and watched everything you did, would they believe you're serious about your goals, or would they see hesitation, distraction, delay? Be honest. Because that answer, that's your reality. Not your intentions, not your plans, your actions. And the good news? You can change that, starting now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. With something small, something simple, something real. Because this is where most people mess up. They wait for a big moment, a big decision, a big change. But life doesn't work like that. It changes in small moments, like this one, right here, where you either move or stay the same. And yeah, staying the same feels easier, familiar, safe. But safe has a cost. It costs growth. It costs opportunity. It costs the life you know you could be living. And one day, that cost becomes too heavy to ignore. The question is, are you going to wait for that day? Or are you going to act now? Because you don't need more time. You need more honesty. You don't need more motivation. You need more commitment. And you don't need a perfect plan. You need a real decision. So here it is, simple, clear, no drama. What's the next thing you know you should do? Do that, not later, not after this video. Now. Because this moment, it matters more than you think. It's not just a moment, it's a pattern. And patterns build lives. So if you change the pattern, you change everything. Slowly at first, then completely. And one day, you'll look back and realize it wasn't one big decision that changed your life. It was a series of small ones, stacked together, repeated daily, until they became who you are. So don't overcomplicate this, don't overthink it, just move. One step, one action, one decision. That's how everything starts. And if this hit you, if something inside you shifted even a little, don't ignore it. That feeling? That's awareness. And awareness is where transformation begins. So keep going. Stay honest. And start becoming the version of you already know you're capable of, because at the end of the day, it was never about time. It was always about you.